Hi Arthur und hello folks. Today is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. My name is Todor Vladov and this is the 16th episode of Keeping It Realistic. You know the drill by now. This is a show in which we together go through the works posted in the Chaos Campus Facebook group within the last week, talking about their strengths but also pointing out their weaknesses and suggesting eventual ways to improve them. I see a lot of activity already. Arthur is here, Helen, Abderrahman, Wacho. Welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. How are you folks? I hope you had a good start in the week. And actually, talking about weeks, we only have less than 2 until the end of the year. And given that this would be our last show for this year, because the next 2 weeks I will be having some hopefully well-deserved holiday, I think we can talk a bit about 2023 in the beginning of the show. So first of all, I want to ask you how this year has been for you in general. Like as an artist, but also on a personal level. And also, tell me what you hope for or what you expect from 2024. Now, in order for you to have time to actually type an answer and so on, I'll try to answer these questions myself, but I really want to hear how 2023 was for you and what you expect from 2024. For me personally, especially commercially, I gotta admit this certainly wasn't the best year out of the 12 years, almost 12 years of my self-employment. Everything started last year in 2022 with the war in Ukraine, which brought all the prices and of energy, construction materials to absolutely skyrocket. And given that my clients are mostly investors and developers, they obviously became very cautious about what they spent their money on. And obviously high quality visualizations weren't among the main priorities. It's kind of understandable. So to me personally, this meant less work than I'm usually used to in the years before that. But on the other hand, I don't want to complain because I still had a lot to do. I still had enough projects, while at the same time some fellow ArchViz artists just went out of business during these years because no, we don't need to sugarcoat it. Our field currently is in a bit of a crisis. In some countries less than in others, but generally these are not the best years for our community. Still, again, I don't want to complain because not only did I manage to actually go pretty good through these bit of a tough times, having a bit more time on my hands than usual actually made it possible to concept this show and actually start doing it, which let's say with the way I usually am busy, I wouldn't have been able to do. So let's say the situation brought also something I hope really good with this show, and I'm actually pretty thankful for this because seeing the impact the show has on this group, on the community, and most of all on single artists who actually visibly improved their skills just within the spans of a few episodes after hearing to the feedback which is provided to them here, has just been awesome. And I don't only say this because I'm the guy behind the show, but because also on a personal level, I have really thoroughly enjoyed this. And my hope for the next year is that we can actually continue what we started, that we can double down on being active and actually turn this group into one of the liveliest and most awesome places online when it comes to visualization. To be honest, I didn't believe that something like this is entirely possible. For the longest time, I was hoping for it rather than believing in it. But seeing how much we were able to already change just within a shorter period of time, because this show has been around for not even 4 complete months, like 3.5 months, and already so much changed, even so that today I won't be able to go through all the projects that have been posted because there are so many projects. So the group, there are a lot of people joining the group since the show started, then the challenges started. This brought more people to the group. Then the awesome masterclass with Nico started, which brought even more people. So currently it's really active, and this is just a change that happened within 3.5 months, which isn't a long time at all. So now I absolutely wholeheartedly believe that we can be this absolutely awesome group. And of course, generally speaking, I hope for the next year that we have no crisis in our field, that it gets just way better for our field, but also generally, if possible, no wars, no diseases, pandemics, and whatsoever. I know that I sound like a Miss Universe contender, but this is just the way I really wish it would be. So yeah, I really hope for a better 2024 for all of us. And again, I would really, really want to hear how you experienced this year and what you really expect from the next one. Even if you would just start writing now, do so. I will go over 1 or 2 other topics, and then I will gladly come back to this topic. And in the meantime, let's say hi to my mom, to Karianne, Kolade, Seraphim. And yeah, maybe let's quickly mention our title image. We always take some time to appreciate it because it's usually actually pretty dope. In this case, the images for it are provided or contributed by Kolade, Abbas, and Alessio. For Kolade, this is the first time, so congrats on that. He only recently joined the group, so this is actually pretty big success, to be honest. Congrats to all 3 of you. Really nice works. I'm really happy that we have this more Christmassy last image, because obviously not all of us in this group celebrate Christmas, but those who do, I think most of us celebrate like the New Year's, the change of the years, and those who do celebrate Christmas, like Chaos Group being a like European and mostly, let's say, Western American company, I think it fits really nicely. I see my dear friend, Mohammed Garib joined us. Hello, man. Really glad to see you here. Also, talking about stuff, don't forget our monthly challenge. We have this challenge right now going with the topic of winter in the city, and it's a challenge that goes over 2 months, so December 2023 and January 2024. So you still have plenty of time to reach in your image. It's 1.5 months to submit, so don't stress it. No matter if you celebrate or not, just enjoy the holidays, spend some time with your loved ones, and next year you can then start it if you haven't already. Just make sure to submit your work until January 31st, 2024, so that you can participate. And with this being said, because I don't see any other comments, Abdurrahman, okay. This was the last train home, man. Let's take a look what Abdurrahman has to say. He says, 2023 has been pretty kind to me. Although I'm shifting more toward card visualization recently, next year my goal is to create a reference channel where I share things that are harder to find online, like full car projects, as well as pursue more studies. I'm very happy to hear that. This year hasn't been kind to a lot of people, especially in our field. So hearing that in your case it was different, that you had it good, is actually a pleasant change. So congrats on that. And as for your plans for the next year, dear Abdurrahman, it sounds really good. And I think, I don't know if you want to, some people do so, and it's absolutely legit. They decide to go a certain road and specialize on it, let's say automotive or office or interiors or furniture visualization, whatever. If you want to, you can specialize in it. If so, then good luck with this. But if you can, of course, also just be a generalist who just has a bit more experience when it comes to car visualization, which is also all right, because especially if the times were to become difficult at some point, it is pretty nice if you're a generalist and you are able to offer more than this one specific topic, because if currently there isn't such a big market for this topic, you actually have a bit of an issue. But if you are like a generalist, if you can do a lot of things in a good way, then you have a way more, like lots of more ways out. So yeah, my fingers are crossed for you. I hope you achieve your goal, and actually making this reference channel, sharing things that are harder to find, sounds really awesome. I don't know if it's only going to be about car visualization or also on more general stuff, but when you build this channel, gladly share it in the group so we can take a look. And with this being said, because today we have like a million projects to talk about, again, there are so many works that I absolutely won't be able to talk about them. There are, of course, many ways to approach situations like this, and this is certainly going to be the future of this group. The more people and interest it gathers, the more projects will be shared, and I surely won't be able to talk about each one of them in detail, because then the show will be like 4 or 5 hours and nobody will be watching it. So what we will be doing, of course, there are a few options. One is to talk about the projects that need it the most. This sounds like it makes sense. It also does, but this is not really fair towards more seasoned and more skilled artists, because I obviously will have to skip their works. But if I do so, there are two bad things that will happen. First of all, we won't be talking about good, like really the best works, so to speak, anymore, which isn't that great, because we don't only want to criticize, we also want to point out stuff that is being done in a good way so that everybody learns from it. So we also want to analyze really, really skillfully made works. And the second thing is, once those skilled and seasoned artists see that their works aren't acknowledged in the show, they will probably lose interest in the group, which is, again, not a good thing, because a group needs all kinds of artists, to be honest. The other way around, that I only concentrate on like the best works, also isn't that good, because the people who need the feedback the most won't be getting it. So there are two options that remain for me: either to select the projects I want to talk about, which is a bit tricky, because then everybody can just come at me and be like, yeah, you don't like me personally, so you didn't talk about my work and stuff like this. So what I'll be doing now, and probably in future, but I'll discuss this with Chaos, is that I'll just follow the first come, first serve method. So the first, let's say, 5 to 7 or 10 works, depending on how large they are, I will just be talking about, and the other ones, I'll have to just skip, or if it's very needed, I may provide a written feedback or something. But for now, I'll just talk about the first works, so that the show doesn't get extremely long, and at some point I'll just stop and then just shortly mention all the rest of the works, and then we can wrap it up. But yeah, it will probably be a 2-hour show, because there is like a ton of stuff to talk about. I see our friend Simon saying, as an architect, I always wondered if car visualization is for clients that are car companies. Do you think that it is a good industry to work with? You are a Rhino user, and Rhino is very often used for automotive visualization. So if you're interested in it, you can consider it. And also for jewelry as well. This is a difficult word to pronounce. So yeah, these are things that are preferably done in Rhino, I would say. So especially when it comes to card modeling, the nice NURBS of Rhino are of course great. So if you're interested, consider it. And I think, yeah, it's mostly for car companies that want to showcase their new models. And yeah, there is a lot of work with HDRIs, and then with the car model, sometimes it's full CGI surroundings, but oftentimes it's just great HDRIs, backplates, and so on. So you may need very good camera in order to make your own HDRIs in cases like this, because obviously it would be a bit of a shame to have like the new Mercedes or whatever just in a Polyhaven HDRI environment that has been already used like a million times. But yeah, let's go to the group and start going through the projects. First one being this animation, sweet real animation by Will. What he says about it is, oh boy, this is his catchphrase. Hi, Danushka, hi. Oh boy, this weekend I was in the cave practicing sequences for reels in a personal project, had a blast and was very insightful. Info, for sequences of 5 seconds on an RTX 4090, it takes about 25 to 30 minutes. This time varies depending on quality, samples, and resolution. The song, which I won't be playing, just to make sure that all countries get to hear what we're talking about here, because we already had issues, even though Will mentions that it is actually meta copyrighted for Reels on Instagram and Facebook. Just to make sure, I won't play the video with sound. But yeah, it is done in Max and Vantage. And yeah, Will is wishing everybody a wonderful week. Let's take a closer look. The description, by the way, is pretty nice. Really enjoyed the technical infos. Maybe the only thing that also needs to be said is the resolution of your 5-second render, because it will probably give a better understanding about about the rendering times. Review-wise, I would say personally this is like a subjective matter, but the Reel surely is a pleasure to look at, especially in combination with the music. Again, please excuse me, you can watch it on your own with music, but both the video and the music go together really, really well. But yeah, the whole thing is really a pleasure to look at, and I think this is what the whole thing is about, right? It's a short animation showcasing your skills in a pleasant way. So this is what you wanted to achieve, and I think mission accomplished. The camera movements really nicely dynamic. The slow-mo moments like this right now are both cool to look at, but also give the viewer the chance to actually concentrate and properly see the detail of your work, which is how it actually should be. It makes a lot of sense. The camera rotations, like the one that we just saw, and these focus shifts that you have, also make for a very exciting and dynamic animation. The scene itself, the kitchen, looks awesome. The color palette is great. The assets that you have used, especially those cutlery that we have in the corner, they are really, really awesome. The kitchen also has very good detail to it, even though I must admit that the kitchen fronts are kind of weirdly partitioned, because some of these cupboard doors are really, really tiny, but maybe these are one of those pull-out doors, I don't know. So yeah, obviously there isn't so much to improve in this situation. It's more like personal subjective takes on my side. One of them being that I'm not such a huge fan of the second scene. Let this start again so we can take a look at it, and I will pause it in the right moment. This is what I call the second scene. The issue I have here is that the object of interest is small here in the corner, and the rest of the space is kind of empty and boring, which I don't think looks that great. It's also blurred out, obviously not that important. And the second thing regarding the whole composition of the scene is something that we will see on the very last scene, where I will pause the video for a second. So you see it already. I will pause it here. So you see a lot of items are placed on the left side in front of each other, like we have the cutlery and the cutting boards and everything next to the ovens. In front of them, it's the pendant, also the vase with the plant, the bar stools, and this is everything is just on the left side, while to the right, we only have the faucet, and that's it. So this obviously isn't really balanced, and it leads to this very staged optic of the kitchen. Like I put all the assets together in one corner to make nice photos there, but actually this isn't how a kitchen works. Obviously you have some stuff here and bar stools to the right and so on. So my general advice in a situation like this is to make sure to provide the whole area that you want to then later concentrate on with balanced furnishing and staffage that actually makes sense. So maybe place the cutting board somewhere here, place a fruit bowl somewhere, add another bar stools so that it looks like a very normal kitchen, and then go around with your camera being like a virtual photographer and take the best shots, because this is something you're good at. You do very nice angles and so on, but don't let it be such a staged general situation. But in conclusion, really sweet. We're glad to see works of yours in your group, glad that you joined it and that you're sharing stuff. And with all of your experience, it would be awesome if in future you're sharing also your knowledge, so occasionally providing feedback to others and so on. It would be greatly appreciated. We can move on to Kolade's work, but let me take a look at what Simon has to say. I love how you remember everyone and their history text very much. Well, yeah. Welcome. If it is if you're talking about me, of course, you're very welcome. Yeah, still I can remember because there are not like hundreds of people. At some point, when the group grows and grows and grows, it will become more difficult. But the fact that I actually prepare the show, I don't just come over here and start improvising, but I have my notes and everything in order for this show to be the most useful to you, or as useful to you as it gets, and competent as well. I actually spend a lot of time with your works, with your descriptions, with you as not so much with you as a person, but I obviously relate the works to certain people, and I mostly remember still who works with what software. But yeah, let's move over to Kolade. Sharing a very, very nice exterior. Obviously, it made it to our current cover image. So let's see what he has to say. Hello guys, this is my attempt to depict a neo-brutalist architectural style using majorly stones and concrete as construction materials. I have used cast-in-steel concrete majorly for the external walls and stones for both as a retaining wall and for aesthetic appeal. Blocking is done in SketchUp, modeling in Max, rendering in Corona, and post-processing in Photoshop. Really good presentation. It's always great to read some backstory and a bit of the workflow, like in this case where you did the blocking at modeling and so on. Obviously, I think you can also do the blocking exactly as good in Max as in SketchUp, but probably in SketchUp it's a bit more visually appealing, I can imagine. Regarding the image presentation, great consistency between the two images and generally pretty classic angles, like this heavy central perspective and then the angled view. So it looks like it belongs on some architectural website like ArchDaily or something. So good job here. Now let's take a look at the images one by one, or let's review them in general. The modeling, from what we see here, modeling is really solid with the right amount of detail to it, not too much, but also absolutely enough actually. One small thing, this life preserver or swimming rink, whatever you want to call it, it shouldn't be that much submerged in the water because it's actually filled with air, so it's floating atop of the water and it's not sticking in it. It's slightly sticking, but not much. This is way too submerged. It's a small detail, but yeah, I just tell you everything I see. Material-wise, mostly everything looks pretty good to me, especially the cast-in-place concrete. I really like this one. It very much fits the neo-brutalism architecture of this building. Just be a bit more careful when it comes to the mapping, because here you see there are some repetitions, and here you see that the mapping is way larger than it is here, and it actually should have the same size and probably also the direction of this one here. The stone material, which is a major material here, I'm not a big fan of. It looks a bit like this built-in SketchUp material library stone material, which was in SketchUp like 10-15 years ago. It's just very flat. I think you have probably used some bump or very, very slight displacement only, and it looks flat. So my suggestion is to just give it a bit more stronger displacement. And in order to achieve this, if you don't want it to stick out more, then work with negative values on the black parts of your displacement map, so that it actually makes the growths go inwards. And one last thing, this is something that Danushka mentioned in his very nice review to your work, is the water surface. It doesn't look good. It's too fragmented, it is too wavy, like it is a very, very windy day, which, it doesn't look good. So I wanted to share with you something. There is this photorealistic water material with caustics by Arvis Artist. It is a great tutorial in order to learn how to make this pool water. I will just share this link in the show comments right now, so that you can actually go and follow it and rework your water. First of all, it will end up looking way more realistic, and secondly, if you actually keep the caustics, it will make the underside of your building, and probably this whole area here, given that you have so strong sun, with your lighting, it will make it look way, way more beautiful. But generally speaking about materials, the color palette is really nice, totally authentic and reliable to a situation like this. Now, design-wise, I'm a bit conflicted, I gotta admit, because if we take a look at these ground plants, let's call them the grass and these bushes here, everything looks like it's the middle of summer. If we take a look at the trees, however, you will see that they are very, very wintry trees. It's not even late autumn, it's winter. Now, I mean, it's the end of December or in the mid of December in Germany. Here we have winter, and our trees in the garden that I just see from behind the monitor have more leaves than yours here. So there is this visual conflict when it comes to the season that you're depicting. So the trees are in winter and the ground is in the summer. In situations like this, if you're not sure exactly what you want to depict, if you, let's say you want to use trees without leaves, then maybe take a look at references where the grass is still green, because also in our garden the grass is green, but it has like millions of leaves on it, and it doesn't look as lush as it does in the summer. So work with references if you want to depict a certain season or situation that makes sense. Other than that, lighting and framing wise, generally pretty good work. It can maybe slightly be improved here and there. On this shot, I think that the areas here are like too dark. If you remember last show when we talked about Sebastian's work, we discussed that in situations like this where he's starting to lose detail and it just becomes too contrasty, too dark, what one can do is actually lower the intensity of the sun. If you're using sun and sky, lower the intensity of the sun, but increase the intensity of the sky. If you're using an HDRI, then give it a color correction map and then increase the gamma a bit, so 0.1 or something, so that you make it a bit, the lighting a bit softer. And regarding the second shot, the framing is nice, but the background, the foreground here is too bright. It would look way better if this was dark. You see also that the grass is almost like washed out in comparison to the other shot. So in order to fix this, the easiest way to do so is to move the trees around a bit until they throw some shadow in this area, and this will make the building pop up way better if the foreground here was dark. With this being said, however, it's a very good effort, Kolade, so keep it up this way. Looking forward to your next work. In the meantime, Flatson joined us. Hi man, and let me also check the comments by Abderrahman. He says, hello, car visualization is done for marketing campaigns, OEM agencies and car companies. As in terms of industry, it might be especially if you are near a big industry of car companies. There is a lot of competition though, but it's worth, I think, maybe also becoming a car surfacer or modeler. Alias or Katya would make it easier. Well, sure, for sure. If you enjoy this, you can do this. But some people aren't satisfied with only modeling stuff and never actually, rendering it out and making a beautiful image out of their work. Kolade says, thank you very much for the reviews. This is what I'm here for. Glad you enjoyed it, man. So let's move on to Abbas with another reproduction of an existing project. Abbas is very much into learning by recreating stuff, which makes a lot of sense, as we all know. He says, we brought our 3D project to life using real project photos from Art Daily. The website became our to-go for authentic inspiration, showcasing amazing designs from architects worldwide. Rightfully so. By incorporating these real-world examples, we built a project that blends creativity and practicality, drawing on the best in contemporary architecture. It's done in Max, Corona, and Photoshop. There is a link to the original reference, high resolution and Instagram. Great description, complete, informative, and you also have provided a link to the original reference, which is the right thing to do, so everybody can go and compare, which especially with this review would be a very, very essential topic. So yeah, maybe let's see how we can start here. Maybe we will first go through your images, then we will go through the original images, and then we will compare both. I think this is the best way to approach this project. What I really like here is that you actually have decided to share the ground floor. This is the area that we will be looking at mostly. So this is the entrance to it, the kitchen, the bedroom, and then this is the large living and dining room area, just so you know. And these are the images that Abbas recreated mostly, because there are some who I think are his own creation. And these are the shots made by Abbas, the shots from the recreation. We'll just go through them and I'll just generally speak about them. So what we see here is interesting architecture, obviously, some nice clean modeling, good details, mostly quality assets on your side. The materials look generally nice. The lighting is kind of serviceable. It doesn't stick out that much, but it does a good job in actually lighting up the scene. And there is also a lot of work, but like many scenes that you manage to create out of this project. I think this is the last one, or now this is the last one. So yeah, this is just looking at your part of the project only. Now let's look at the original project and then analyze this as well. So what we see here from the very first shot is that the shots, these photographs, have very, very strong and heavy field of view, obviously very low focal length. This is something we see on the second shot. This is just the way the photographer decided to go in this case. Regarding the architecture, it's very pure, very clear. The materials are extremely subtle, like so subtle that you can often don't see the patterns at all. If you squint your eyes, you only see colors, no patterns anymore. And the lighting is soft, but very, very precisely calibrated. Yeah. And with this being said, I think it's time to start comparing the original shots and yours. Let's see how it goes. It will always be first the original and then Abbas' recreation. So, first shot, it's the side view of the kitchen. Now, if we compare the original and yours, we see that it's completely different proportions, very different field of view. So I gotta ask myself, I understand if you don't agree with how a photographer approached a certain project. You don't have to, this is subjective. But if you don't agree with this, I'm not sure if recreating this project is the right thing to do, because why we recreate those projects? It's not so much to train our modeling skills, especially with a project like this. The modeling isn't that much of like your main goal. Your goal usually is to recreate the lighting, the materials, and what the photographer did in order to represent the situation as it is. So this is what you're trying to learn. This is what you're trying to extract as a knowledge when you do a recreation like this. Now, if you see a project that you generally like when it comes to its architecture, but you don't like the photos, I think it's a better idea to actually choose a different project where you actually like the photos so that you can recreate them, rather than just doing your own thing. Now, doing your own thing is okay if you do it additionally. But again, one of the main things that we do this for is to learn what actual photographers do. Because, you can learn modeling, you can learn texturing and wrapping and rendering. All of this you can learn on courses on 3D. But what we actually mostly don't learn is actual photography. So recreating existing photos, the main goal of it should actually be recreating what a photographer did, learning how they approach the situation so that we know how to approach it in future on one of our commercial works. So in this case, I'm not sure if it was the best decision of yours to just say, yeah, you know what a photographer did, I don't like, I'll just do something else, because I don't know. I think in this specific case, what the photographer did is actually something that just represents this architecture in a more suitable way. Then we have the second shot. This is the entrance area, and here we have the same situation. Like, this is the original and this is yours. It just looks like two different places, like two different objects. Also, make sure that when you do something that it makes sense. Obviously, you won't always have the exact same assets and so on. But still, in the original, you have a tricycle. A tricycle is self-balanced. It has 3 points to stand on the ground, so it's self-balanced, and that's it. In your case, you went with a bicycle, and that's absolutely okay. But the bicycle isn't self-balanced, so it cannot just stay like this. So then, if you use it, then lean it upon the wall, so it actually makes sense, right? Third shot is another situation, very, very difficult, a very different field of view that you have used. So it just makes it look like a different space. But I think what caught your attention to this project were the original photos, the way they were. So if you go for different photos, it also kind of changes the way the project actually ends up looking like. So yeah, this is why it's not so great so far in regards of recreation, is what I mean. The fourth shot, we have the kitchen viewed from the dining table. Here again, you have used very different proportions, very different FOV. Again, it looks like a completely different area. Also, the dining table looks very underdimensioned, and also not sure how much it fits the architecture and the rest of the materials, to be honest. The fifth shot, this is the original and this is yours. In this case, I think this one is actually a pretty good recreation. You didn't want to show too much of these white borders here, so you cut it a bit closer, so you zoomed in a bit, but the angle stays more or less the same, so I think it works okay with this one. The sixth one, this is actually an angle of yours, as far as I can tell, because I didn't find a reference to this one or the original angle, and I think that this is actually a pretty nice one. I like this angle. The seventh one, let me check if this is the one, isn't that great. This is the kitchen. Like, this shot looks pretty cool. It has a lot of dynamic to it through this heavy FOV, but it looks really dope. And in your case, it looks like a different kitchen and not really a great one. Like, yours seems kind of narrow, kind of compressed, while the original looks bright and inviting and modern. And also when it comes to the lighting, it's also not optimal. In your case, it's kind of just there. It's lit up, but there is no clear hierarchy. There is no excitement in the lighting. If you take a look at the original, you see how much better it looks like. And again, this is exactly what we do those recreations for, to recreate something like this, to know how to create an image which has such a nice depth and dynamic to it. So if I were you, you already have the solid base, you have built the model. If I were you, I would go back and I would try to recreate some of these angles, especially like the kitchen one, because it will end up looking way, way better. The eighth one is another example of something where I think you didn't actually get the message of the original shot. Like, you see, this is the original. We have the doors being open, the bedroom behind them being brightly lit. So this is one very informative but also very emotional shot. It's really inviting. It's just sucking you in. And when we take a look at yours, you just close the doors. There isn't such a strong light behind. It's like, yeah, there is a bedroom there. Let me just put in something in front of it and then call it a day. So yeah, the meaning of the original shot isn't transported into yours. Then the next one, it's the dining room to the entrance. This shot has some really nice lighting and framing, while yours is a bit, it's okay, but the lighting isn't there and the framing also isn't as good. Then we have the 10th shot. It's the living room shot facing the bedroom. Personally, I'm not the hugest fan of this shot. I think it would have been better to see more of the bedroom, but obviously photographers don't have camera clipping, so they have to work with what they have. Still a nice shot though. In your case, you took a bit of a different approach, but I think it's nice. I would have just, again, as you have camera clipping, I personally would have suggested something like this, where you just extend it and you actually properly show the living room area for the first time. It would have been better this way, in my opinion. Then we have the shot number 11, which is actually a nice one, but still some of the furniture looks underscaled here. You see the table and the piano, they're definitely underscaled. Then we have the living room wall, which is another great example showcasing why it is important to properly analyze a work before recreating it or during the recreation process. If you squint your eyes, again, you will see how the materials have almost no patterning to them. Everything is very clean, sleek, soft, really beautiful proportions. If you take a look at yours, you will see how it's in comparison, it's kind of rough. The texture is way too pronounced. The proportions aren't the same. The piano is definitely too small. So things like this. And the last one, funny enough, the isometric view, this is an original shot of yours. And to me, this actually is the best shot among all of the other shots of yours. And this is actually how it made it onto the cover image for this show, because despite this being an original creation and not a recreation of an existing angle, it is probably the closest to the original photo shoot, because the original photo shoot made this space look out of this world, like over the top sleek and stuff. And this angle that you have chosen here, this orthographic angle, is actually more like it than almost all the other angles that you have remade. So in conclusion, I would say that this work would be really nice to people who don't know the reference project. They will just look at your work and they will be like, oh, this looks nice, like a nice pace. Those who do, however, like we, they will probably agree that you didn't manage to capture the essence of the original. So my advice is keep doing those recreations. They are a great way to learn. But in the beginning of the project, when something gains your attention and you're like, oh, this project looks nice, then try to immediately figure out why. What is it that makes it nice? What are the most important aspects to these projects? Like we talked about it in the beginning. This one is so clean. We have this very strong FOV and stuff like this. So if you enjoy all of this and you think you want to recreate it, then go and recreate it. But don't just take the architecture and then do your own half-baked stuff out of it. But of course, continue with these recreations because they are an amazing way to learn for everybody. Simao joined us. Hello, man. Next, we have some dude announcing this Vantage webinar, which happened last week, December 13th. Seems like a lot of you would have missed it without this announcement. I don't know if Chaos didn't promote it or if you were just all too busy to be able to, follow up. But seems like a lot of people were really thankful for sharing this information. So did you watch it? If so, was it good? I'm not sure if there is a recording. I didn't watch it. I'm not a Vantage user. I'm a Corona user. I don't have Vantage. But if you did, and if there is a recording, gladly share the recording. And if you watch it, gladly share how it was. I think, especially since Vantage is now supporting displacement and hair and fur material, I think that it's even more beloved than it was before. And Simao, you joined absolutely on time for me to talk about your work. Good timing. So here you go with some really exciting architecture. It's called Dreaming. Good afternoon, fellow artists. I am taking advantage of this incredible moment to share this idea that I've called Dreaming. I hope you like it. Inspiration is Blade Runner 2049, which is obviously great inspiration. Software done is Max, Corona, Photoshop, and Luminar Neo. The families used, very interesting information, by the way. KitBash 3D, Max 3, Glow Plant, CG Mood, Evermotion, 3D Sky, and Anonymous Artists. They gained my attention, the Anonymous Artists. But fun aside, very nice description. We know the software combination, we know the tools used, but also we know what inspired you to do this, which is always a great piece of information. And as for the images themselves, in a small preview here, they certainly are promising and make me want to click on them. So this is exactly what we're going to do now. And we'll go through the shots one by one, starting with the first one, where I think that you depicted the situation very nicely. The design of the building, obviously, especially this front facade and this one, is very exciting. Also, generally speaking, you achieved some really nice urban feeling. The materials seem pretty nice as well. The framing is good. I like how these branches here follow the form of the building. It looks pretty cool. But in terms of mood and storytelling, I must admit that I'm not quite convinced yet. Personally, I don't quite see the Blade Runner inspiration, maybe a bit with the form of the facade, but I mean, I extra went to Google to search for some some architectural shots from Blade Runner, and you see it looks the mood of those images, like all of them, is pretty different to what you've depicted here. For what I know, this one could just be some modern building in a random big city, right? It doesn't say Blade Runner to me, to be honest. And also, the city kind of looks dead, and not in the sense of being abandoned, post-apocalyptic or spooky. It's just kind of lifeless. It just misses the life that it's typical to a city, especially to a Blade Runner one, which are usually overcrowded, like cyberpunky. And also this fog looks really strange, like Fletson you put it. It's like Snoop Dogg has been here. It's really a bit weird, so maybe you want to rework it a bit. Regarding the second shot, I missed one thing here, the scattering. You have scattered clustered leaves. Now, when you do this, when you scatter leaves that are together as a group, make sure to also scatter single leaves as well, because it's quite unnatural to have only clusters but never single leaves, right? So if you have these clusters, have some single leaves in between, also in the middle of the street, because otherwise it doesn't look believable. Second shot, In this case, the added car actually brings some dynamics with it to the shot, which is nice. Also, the angle is pretty heavy, which is also good in this case, but still, the critique from the previous shot still stays. Now, the third shot is a bit of a different story, because here I actually get some of the Blade Runner vibes because of this over-the-top yellowish light, also these very dramatic additional lightings. Also, this shot is generally like more cinematic, and I think that if you added more life to it, also dirt, imperfections, and kind of bit randomness, if you put something behind the ground floor facade, you can actually come very close to the atmosphere and mood of your reference. So, with this being said, I still think that this is one very cool exercise of yours. So just make sure to study your references a bit better to find out what makes them special, and then try to capture this and represent it with your work. And now we can move on to Arthur with a tribute to some of the best works submitted by this year's D2 challenge. He says, thank you so much. Thank you to all the talented artists who took part in the D2 Challenge 2023. Your work simply blew our minds. We've received over 140 amazing images and animations from all over the world, and we are so honored by the amount of work you've put into them. We wanted to pay a little tribute to you all with this gallery featuring best entries. Cheers, Bart and Art. Then just do Bart with a big A. But I mean, I don't know if you have had the time to go through these works, but most of them are truly fascinating, and I actually want to dedicate a bit of time to actually go through some of them, not all of them, but some, because they are a wonderful showcase of how different scenarios, because this is what we have here, vastly different scenarios and different storytelling can actually totally change the meaning and perception of one and the same object, because we always have this tent, totem, like tent, whatever this is, but put into different situation, it just becomes something completely different. So if you haven't had the time to go through them, I strongly advise you to do so, because they are truly inspirational and an absolute feast for the viewer's eye. Some of them are really, like most of them, are really awesome. I'll probably stop here, but make sure to go through them. This will absolutely, truly inspire you, I guarantee. Next, we move on to Tilina's work. You know how it is. Tilina's work, we usually don't review like we do with the other jobs, because they mostly are very visually similar, but we gladly just take a look together, because it's usually a pleasure to go through his very naturally inspired and oriented works. In this case, it's great to see the inspiration for this project. It's obviously this fish that I cannot tell you which one it is, but we see the head of it being turned into this yoga area, and the tail fin here being, I don't know, some kind of a sun shelter or whatever. And this is just cool. I really hope to someday be able to visit one of those locations where Tilina's projects are actually implemented and see them live. And for you, Tilina, just one small tip, because you use 3D people to give some life to your projects and show how they're meant to be used. It's probably a good idea now to try AI in order to enhance the realism of the people that you use. Probably try out Stable Diffusion. It may pay off pretty nicely. And then we move on to Alessio, who says, I have a lot of free time those days, so why not doing a Christmas scene? There it is. The first version is the one with no filter over it, and the second one is with one of my favorite LUTs, which is teal and orange. It's done in Cinema 4D and Corona 11. So, obviously very good description. Alessio always manages to nail this. Regarding the image presentation, it's kind of okayish in this case, I would say, because it's visually consistent, obviously, but also repetitive because two of the angles we have twice. And it also generally feels a bit cluttered, to be honest. But let's take a look at the shots. One by one, I'll just enlarge them and we can go through them. So we have the main shots, which you have obviously put a lot of effort and work and surely time into, because there is like a ton of stuff which is being put into this scene and stuff to look at, which obviously results in a lived-in, lively image. This is true. The mood is also quite good. I like how the coldness on the outside can really be felt. And I also appreciate how it's like cozy and dry on the inside. This is cool. But at the same time, I gotta admit that to me, the whole composition here is kind of cramped and generally a bit messy. What I miss here is clear focus, like foreground, background. It's currently, what you're telling the viewer with this image is something like everything is equally important. Like the candles here, the pillows, the fireplace, the Christmas tree, everything. Which never is that great when it comes to composition and storytelling, to be honest. Now, of course, one could argue and say, yeah, well, some people just have a lot of stuff lying around, and what Alessio depicted here is just this situation, very naturalistically. Like, this is just the home of people who have tons of stuff. Sure, but the next question, of course, should be, do photos made in the homes of such people look good? Because I'm not sure that the answer is yes. Now, if we take a look at the close-up, here we have a clearer focus because of the depth of field, but still the color and the contrast aspects of the composition still don't work and feel unbalanced, because there are almost no objects that are simply and clearly visible. You see, for example, this alcohol bottle, you have it in focus, this is true, but it's placed in front of this white armrest of the sofa. So there is not enough contrast for it to stick out, even though it's in focus and the background is blurred. Like, I know this happens often, but remember, something which looks realistic and something which looks good aren't one and the same thing. I can now take my smartphone and I can just take a few photos here around my office without even looking. These photos will obviously be photorealistic because they're photos, right? But they surely won't be looking good. So if you see that something that you have just rendered out looks realistic, this absolutely isn't a proof of quality. It's a proof that it is realistic, but it's not a proof that it is looking good. And the third shot, this one is probably the best one, even though the situation is similar to the one before. But here, let's say we have the bottle in front of the dark background, which is also blurry because of the depth of field. And now you see how nicely this bottle actually sticks out and is visible and perceptible. But again, there is so much stuff here. Like, we have the candles here, then we have the cookies, then we have the Christmas decoration, we have the jug, behind it there is something to eat, then we have the glasses, the jug, then we have the guitar, the back wall, the pillows, the blanket. It's like 10 things in front of each other. This is just too much. This doesn't produce a clear image. Regarding the other version, personally, I am also a fan of this LUT. It does look filtered, but it looks nice. So when it comes to realism, this version here looks more realistic because the colors and everything is way more natural. When it comes to posting on Instagram, then this one is of course very nice just because it has this like a bit over the top but really beautiful, nice looking tone mapping. So in general, I'd say it's a sweet scene with a lot of effort put into it, but in future maybe try to go a more less is more approach when it comes to filling your scene with stuff, and you can always add more. Start with just a few things that are like the most important things to you, and if you see that somewhere something is missing, you can always add it later. Also, definitely check out the next post, because it's again Arthur from the Common Point sharing another free lesson from the Common Point Masterclass, and the topic of it is color and contrast, which very much fits what we just talked about. He says, hello fellow artists, new free lesson from the Common Point Masterclass is available on YouTube. In this one we go over how different types of contrast can unlock hidden potential in your image, learn how to use shapes, detail, frequency, or colors to build visual interest with the free video. There is a link in the comments. Software is Corona Max, and greets from Bartosz and Arthur. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to watch it so far, because I usually try to watch them as soon as possible, but I will definitely do so in the next time, because it's awesome to get some insights in the knowledge of these two great artists. And as always, big thanks to Bartosz and Arthur for sharing their knowledge with us and with everybody actually. Next we have Marcelo, who says, with actually a very lovely message. He says, dear colleagues, at this special time of the year, I want to take a moment to express my sincere admiration and gratitude to Emilia Gavrilova, Theodor Vladov, Nikos Nikolopoulos, Theodor Vladov, Thomas M. Grimes, and all of you who make magic with renders and the world of 3D. I really appreciate that you mentioned my name twice, because sometimes once simply isn't enough. But let's continue. May these holidays be full of light, inspiration, and rewarding moments. May each render you create be a masterpiece that illuminates the path to a 2024 full of successes and exciting projects. Happy holidays and a prosperous new year. The project itself is done in Max Corona 11, in Photoshop 2024. So obviously wonderful text, wonderful description. Thank you so much for these kind words and the awesome wishes. It's obviously an honor to be among these people that you mentioned, because all of them are really awesome. I think we can even extend the list a bit with Teodora Mircheva, Teddy, and of course Claudio, who we have to thank for with a lot when it comes to the show, because it was him that that on the side of Chaos and me that put this show together. He also made it possible that we have actually prizes and rewards to our challenges. And of course, Nicholas, Buriel, but and everyone else who's putting time and effort into turning this group into a great community. And of course, to you, Marcelo, you are also very often sharing stuff about like announcements for some webinars and stuff, which is something that we just want to have in a group like this. And it's actually pretty cool to actually this time also talk about a project of yours, because apart from being a great Christmas card, this is also a 3D project. So we want to talk about it and review it, right? Regarding the image presentation, when we talk about these small images here, even though they all don't fit together that well at first glance, I think what you did here is quite smart, because you have two images that share the same color palette, so they obviously go together well. And then you have two images that share the same contents, which obviously also goes together well, but is different enough to be exciting. So all in all, the presentation is actually pretty nice and convincing, even though it is not so consistent visually. So let's take a look at the shots one by one, starting with this close-up, which is very nice and peaceful scene with a very laid-back mood to it. The depth of field is pretty sweet, the focus is clear. The set that you have used, I think it's the same that Alessio also had in his scene. I guess it's one from the Cosmos library, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think is optimal for close-ups. It's not a bad one. It's too perfect. So I think that some material imperfections, maybe some fingerprints, smudges, scratches on the metal here and on the ornaments here, maybe also some scratches, some wax running down the candle, maybe some subsurface scattering on the wax material would do a better will leave a better impression and maybe extend the framing more. So like something like this. You see, I added here a bit of running down wax, a bit of imperfections, scratches to the candles, and also I extended the framing to have a like row of thirds. And I think that this way it's probably a bit better. So if you folks are still awake in the comments, let me know if you like it more this way. Regarding the Christmas tree, we're here. Regarding the Christmas tree scene, this one is, I was not sure how to feel about this one, to be honest, because both colors that you have here as main colors feel a bit off, and let me explain why. Now, at the first glance, the associations that people who have seen scenes like this in 3D or in real life have is that the blue color is coming from the outside, like it's a winter blue hour on the outside, and it just comes through the curtains on the inside. And when it comes to the fireplace, one would assume that it's just fire which is burning there, and it provides this warm color. So here you went for this warm-cold contrast, which is always cool, but both colors feel off. And the reason for this is that what I just described isn't the case. Like, if it was the blue hour blue coming from the outside and the color of burning fire coming from the fireplace coming from the inside, then both colors would look differently. In this case, however, the blue is coming actually from the Christmas lights, and the yellow is coming from some, I think, light source which isn't fire but is placed in the fireplace. So this is why both colors feel off, and it leaves a bit of a confusing impression on me. The next shot, however, this one is my favorite out of all three, because the color palette is really beautiful, together with the soft lighting and this nice wintry background on the outside. It makes for a very clean and peaceful scene, which is still emotional. It just has this sleek luxury look to it, and it's just a pleasure to look at. So I hope you're using it for your this year's greeting cards, man, because this is the right motive. And by the way, folks, talking about greeting cards, do you actually send your clients stuff for holidays? It mustn't be Christmas. It could be whatever holidays you have, Muslim, Buddhist, it doesn't matter. But do you send your clients cards or maybe presents, or is it like, yeah, we just go on a holiday and that doesn't matter? Yeah, I'm very curious at this, because usually towards Christmas, the rest of the year I don't, but towards Christmas I send greeting cards to my clients, and often some sweets or something, because you can never send expensive gifts anyway, because it could be seen as a bribe. So you're limited at like €35 and that's it. But it would be interesting to know. Simon says, did you use Photoshop in order to extend the image with the wax? Yes, it's generative fill. I'm not sure if I still have it. Let me take a look at this. Yeah, so maybe I can delete these two and we can take a look at it together with. So first of all, I extended the image using the cropping tool. Then I made one version. You see, there were lots of versions. No, I'm at the wrong, sorry. I had a few tries in order to achieve the look that I was after. Some of them are actually okay. This one is pretty valid. And this one looked the most realistic. The balls here looked normal, so I went with it, and then I started adding stuff. I think first what I added was this flowing wax here. Then I added, what is this? Yeah, some really very subtle scratches and texture. Then on top of it, I added more on the one candle than on the second candle. You see here the difference. So you see the initial one is just very, very perfect, like too perfect. And the second one looks way more realistic. And then I had some small scratches here on these. And this is how I do it. I mean, I wouldn't extend my own renderings like this, and I don't recommend Maceo do it as well. But of course, he has the power to just extend the cropping of his shots, which I obviously don't have. So yeah, this is how I made it. And now let's move on to Amjad with a very interesting looking project. He says, hello, I'm starting to visualize a 3D game based on modeling. I hope you like it. It's done in Blender and Psychos. I must admit that this description was kind of cryptic. I couldn't figure out if you're visualizing a scene from a computer game or if you're actually working on a computer game. I asked Amjad yesterday and he answered, so I will refresh the window and scroll back to the project so that we can actually read his answer. Oh no, I see myself, this is not good. So that we can read his answer, because I guess he's actually working on a game. So what he said is, hello Theo, yes, I modeled the core set in Blender and then I will work on it in Unreal Engine to simulate a game. Well, this is of course very exciting. This looks like a game I would like to play. As for the images, they look pretty cool. I gotta admit this, I really like the contrast on them. Even though it's the same scene twice, I still want to click on it because it makes me curious. So this is exactly what we will be doing next. And we will take a closer look at what we have here. So definitely a cool looking scene with a lot of mysticism to it. The cave design and the situational design is pretty nice. The fire pit makes sense. The skulls, they add a lot to the atmosphere. The veiled figure is really nicely implemented for several reasons. First of all, we don't see the face, which actually makes it more creepy than if we saw it. Because if we saw it, let's say even it's a zombie or something, it wouldn't be that creepy because we would know what we are facing. But in this case, the mysterium around this figure makes it really exciting. And the second thing is, you placed her in front of the light. So what you achieve by this is that you have this contre-jour lighting, which makes her be a dark silhouette, which again hides her face and makes her more creepy. And the second thing is, which is a really nice addition of some storytelling, is you placed her visually in front of the only visible exit to this situation. So just psychologically seen, if we're in a stressful situation, we have our reflex to either fight or flee. So if we want to flee and she's blocking visually the only exit that we have, it makes it more stressful, which adds a layer of fear to the image and is pretty cool. What doesn't make so much sense here is that the whole cover, the whole floor of this cave is covered with autumn leaves. We don't even have autumn trees in here, and even if we did, I don't think that there will be so many autumn leaves. The density is too high, and generally they don't make so much sense. Maybe try covering the floor with bones and skulls if you want to go like full metal. This would be awesome. I tried it with generative AI, but I think this is not politically correct enough for nowadays thing to do, so it didn't work out at all. What I managed to achieve was like a more cavey floor, which is something like this. So maybe rethink this one, but actually this is not a big deal. My main issue are those rock formations that we see here. because they look very smoothed and sleeked out, which takes a lot of realism out of this scene. Now you have created them probably, I don't know, in Unreal or Blender, but there is probably some displacement modifier or something. Check if that you don't have any blurring to it, because it looks like some blurring is happening here because they're way too smooth it out. But generally speaking, this is absolutely interesting, and I'm looking forward to how this project of yours develops, because it could be something really, really awesome. Next, we have Abdi, as usual, Abdi being helpful and sharing useful stuff. In this case, it's how to batch load textures with V-Ray multi-sub texture. It's a quick tutorial. It came out like 3 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, by Chaos themselves. I think it's like literally 1 minute long or something, but it's really, really convenient to use this. So yeah, take a look at it, and thanks for Abdi for sharing. And then we actually move on to a project done by Abdi, which is a seldom thing to see. Usually it's stuff that he experiments with. In this case, it's also something like this, but it is something that I can at least talk a bit more about, which is interesting. So what he's doing here is testing out fur in Vantage, because as we already mentioned previously in the show, now Vantage is supporting V-Ray hair and fur and displacement modifiers. So this is what he's doing here. He says V-Ray fur and hair render test in Chaos Vantage. The whole scene was created in 3ds Max. The 3D model of the chair is from the Chaos Cosmos library. I've added some V-Ray fur and hair, which is now supported in Vantage, in order to test the feature. It's rendered with 3,600 samples, and the render time is around 10 minutes per image. Great description. Everything around the project is pretty clear after reading it, and also the technical info is pretty useful, and let me show you why. Because once you enlarge the images, you will see that actually some people reacted to this. So if Abdi would have just written, my latest whatever, or chair, or how artists sometimes tend to do it, people would be like, okay, and they would just skip it. But in this case, he wrote about the render times, he wrote about the samples, and you see the first question from Carolina is like, whoa, great render. Was it really necessary to have 3,600 samples? Then like Antonio asks, okay, 10 minutes for an image, classic render is faster. And then Abdi answered them both, and they discussed, and this is like how this should be. This is what the community should look like, and something that we all profit from, because the more information, the more input you share, the more people can actually react to it and then reach out to you, or at least remember what kind of setup you had. So let's say I work with Vantage and I want to do a similar material, and I'm like, you know what? I know Abdi had mentioned somewhere that he did like 3,600 samples, something like this. So this is important. And if we take a closer look at the chair, it's obviously, on the whole situation, it's very nicely and smartly executed experiment. He just used an ISA set from the Cosmos library. It's integrated in his render engine, so it's easy as hell to just, drop the model into your scene and start experimenting. The hair that he achieved looks really nice to me. I also very much enjoy that it's not just continuously uniform, but it has these rounded lanes in it. It makes it way more exciting and interesting to look at. The framing's pretty sweet, especially on the first shot. On the second one, I think you didn't have to cut off the legs, but I understand that this shot is not about the chair, it's you experimenting with the material. In this case, it's better so that it becomes visible and understandable for everybody that you actually want to show the material. It's better to just zoom in a bit more. And regarding the lighting, I think that the current one, it works. Obviously, it shows everything properly, but usually a piece of furniture like an armchair is something that we associate with comfort, with coziness, and so on. But what we have here as a setting and lighting is a bit like it's like in a cargo elevator or something, which I don't know if it's the right setting. So maybe try to achieve some atmospheric studio lighting. And for this, I want to share another great tutorial by Archvis Artist. This one on studio lighting. It is a really cool one, not too long. I will share it in the comments. Maybe follow it and experiment with it. First of all, you will learn something if you don't know it already. And second, I think you can give this chair a generally a bit better atmosphere. But as usual, please keep making all of those nice experiments and sharing them in the group. I know that it seems like often they get overlooked. You see, it's not like never like 80 likes or something, but I'm sure that it stays with people and that they go back to it if they want to actually see how you did it. And maybe in future, if there is a possibility, I gotta do some research on this. We can fuse certain posts together to certain topics, or maybe have certain hashtags that we give posts like tutorial or experiment or whatever, so that later, if somebody needs something, they can easily go back and actually find what they're looking for. And we can continue with the course work. It's very nice imagery creation. He says, "Hi friends, it's a new personal render rendered for practice purpose. Found an interesting image on Pinterest and tried to recreate it. Hope you guys like it. It's done in Max and Corona." Very good description, Takur. What I'm only missing is the link to the original project, because sharing it is the right thing to do. We can then compare, we can then talk about what you did differently or what you did right and stuff like this. And it's also always more fair this way, because you described it here very honestly, like you found it on Pinterest and tried to recreate it. This is awesome. You're not acting as if it is your own creation. This is how it should be, but still, I think it would be better if you would actually share the original in order to credit the original creators. If we take a look at the image, there is not so much to talk about this one. It's simple yet really nice scene with a lot of useful, beautiful color palette to it and nice materials. It's a pleasure to look at. Modeling looks good. There isn't obviously a ton of it, but what is there is nicely done. The assets that you have used look very good and also fit nicely, really nicely. And the lighting, it's a major aspect in this situation. It adds to the composition because of this diagonal here. And it's just really, really good. Like smooth, and with this shadow, it just adds a lot of mood and atmosphere to the shot. And that's it. Just great small exercise. So keep doing this. And if at some point you feel like confident, try to make something which maybe one of the walls in an apartment or in a certain, let's say, one of those living room, dining room, kitchen areas. This is one of the shots, but it's the whole area. Then try recreating all of it and then taking more shots. Even 360s or VR or stuff like this. Experiment more. The more you experiment, the more you know. Then we have Marcelo again with showing us some addictions like cocaine, alcohol, crack, and Corona. I gotta agree partially with this one. When I use Corona, I'm also happy, but I'm not sure if sitting in front of the PC for hours every day doesn't result more into what we see in the other three images. Still a nice meme though. And yeah, now, this is, there are tons of other projects to talk about, and I don't want to talk about them like in depth, because then the show will be like 3 hours. We're already on 1.5 hours in, so the next projects I will just mention for you to know out of respect for the artists, because this is the last show for the year, so that we can soon wrap up this session. We have Ushan sharing It's All About a Feeling, Honda Civic Type R render, a pretty good one, honestly. I will open this in a separate window because he already did a good job. And then Abdi actually reached out to him and gave him some tips. You can see here, he says he's really liked the model, great job on that. The image could be a bit brighter and it looks like the sharpness has been lost due to the use of denoiser or something similar. In my opinion, it could use a bit more exposure and more sharpness. Here is my version of what it could look like, but as mentioned before, that's just my personal opinion. Keep up the good work and cheers. So this is Abdi's version. Personally, I also prefer this one. I think this is really an improvement, and this is like the awesome thing about this group. If we take care of each other the same way like Abdi did here, he showed his fellow 3D artist what he thinks doesn't really look that good with his otherwise really nice scene, because the materials look nice, the cracks, everything is pretty awesome in this scene. But regarding the mapping, what he removed is this blue tinting, and he made it more neutral, which I think looks more realistic as well. So things like this always fill my heart with joy, because this way we just improve, we advance, and we learn more. But also congrats to Ushan for this really cool project. Then we have Tilina again. We'll just go through the images one by one. This time the architecture is inspired by the form and the tail of a pangolin, which is a very interesting animal on itself. So you see this one here. It is, again, I really hope that someday I will be able to visit one of those structures and see them built in real life, because I can imagine that it is a nice experience as an architect especially, but also just as somebody enjoying beautiful things in life. This looks pretty dope. Then we have Abraham, who seems to be a new member, so let's welcome him to the group. He shared a project that, again, I won't be talking about in depth, but I will show you the images. What I really liked here is he very nicely describes the process. It's like 2D plans to 3D modeling to 3D rendering, and there is this drive folder where you can actually see some screenshots from his workflow and you see the PC specs, you see the scene as it goes, the HDRI settings, some material settings, and so on, which is actually a very nice thing to share in an educational community like ours. So yeah, there is a lot of information, really great description, Abraham. Your first try and you aced it, absolutely. And as for the images themselves, they actually also look pretty nice. There is partially some overexposure in these areas here, but what I see here composition wise I very much like. I think that you have used an HDRI which has these electrical poles and the cables here. I'm not sure if they're not a bit overscaled, but they very nicely fit the scene. So if the client is okay with it, then why not? And regarding the interiors, you may want to add some stuff on the interior. You can do it with a parallax solution, or you can use the Cosmos library and at least some curtains to cover up that there is nothing on the inside. But other than that, I really enjoy this one, and it's really awesome that you decided to share all of these middle steps of your project and not just the final result. Tilina says, thank you, Theo. It's my pleasure, Tilina. Again, once you have photos of one of those things of yours that are being built, please share them in the group, because it would be really amazing to see. Then we have Konstantinos showing us, I think this video is even shorter than 30 seconds because it even has time for some memes, showing us how to use hotkey combination from Alt, Shift, and 5 in order to place the pivot in 3D Studio Max in the center of our object and the bottom side of it, which is really cool. Next, thanks to Konstantinos for this, and best of luck to Meshmaster.com, of course. Next we have Hussein, who says, Home Alone project. As we welcome the new year, let's rewind and relive the timeless charm of Home Alone. Join us in these hilarious adventures of Kevin McAllister and the heartwarming moments that make this classic film a holiday favorite. Here's to the magic of old memories and the excitement of new beginnings. Happy New Year, everyone. Wish you all the best. Software used is Max, Corona, Quixel, Bridge, and Photoshop. This is, first of all, this is obviously very, very nice text. Thanks for all the great wishes. Everything great back to you. As for Home Alone being a classic, believe me, if you have kids, there will be a moment where you will go back and watch this. With my family, it was last year. My daughters loved the movie because it's obviously, especially for their age, like 8 and 4, it's really, really funny and amusing, but it's also so light-hearted and just a pleasure to watch. So for me and my wife, it was also a trip down memory lane, and we enjoyed this moment a lot. So yeah, it still holds up. It's still funny. So yeah, let's take a look at the animation. Once again, I'll not be reviewing this. We'll just go through it for the sake of respect, showing respect to the artists. I don't think this is like a real animation. This is more like something you do in After Effects, or like zooming in, zooming out, having some transitions. It's funny to see how the dad is actually the one looking at the TV, because actually nobody is watching. Like the movie's starting and nobody's watching. Dad's playing the piano and the kids playing with toys. Nobody's watching, but I really enjoy the festive atmosphere. Like there is some candy, there is some alk for the grown-ups and candy for the kid, and the fire in the fireplace is on. It's really festive. I really like it, but again, it's a bit strange how the kids actually doesn't give a damn about the movie, and the dad too, or at least the dad is watching with a side eye, and maybe also enjoying the memories of back then when he was a kid and watched this one. But yeah, pretty nice seeing Hussein. Really cool. Thanks for sharing this one, and again, Happy New Year to you as well. Then we have Muhammad here with minimalism is not a lack of something, it's simply the perfect amount of something. Hello lovely people, I would like to introduce you to my new work, bedroom located at Case A. I hope you like it. It's done in Max and Corona. It's a very minimalist one. It's the perfect amount of something. This is a nice quote, well said, because yeah, it is not empty. It's not lacking anything. It's the right amount, as you put it. This image is very good. I also actually don't see anything to correct here. I really like what I see so far. Also, the backplate fits nicely. The mood and everything. This is pretty cool. Nice angle. It's almost orthographic, but it looks really cool. It's everything. You very nicely stay in this minimalist topic. This is skillfully done. The only issue, I actually already went once through all the images. The only issue that I saw here is that something seems to be wrong with the floor texture, with the parquet texture. It seems like your bump probably still is turned to the 90 degrees to the direction of the wooden planks. So maybe check it out, because it looks wrong, and it's actually, again, the only thing that I see that seems to have an issue. Maybe on this one you can use some depth of field to concentrate more on the lamp and not so much on something like this, which is secondary in this case. But generally, this is very good work. Again, you see here there's something wrong with the floor. Just fix that, and I think that this is very solid work of yours. I see some comments. Ushan says, thank you very much, Theo, for the kind thoughts. Really appreciate it. You're very welcome. You should mainly thank Abdi in this case because he was the one who provided you with this awesome feedback. But yeah, this is the way we want to have this group. So if you see something, I don't think that Abdi needed to invest like 2 hours to provide you with this feedback. I mean, what he has written here is probably a matter of like, I don't know, 3 minutes, and then let's say another 4 or 5 minutes to test this out, because he also changed something. If he were just to write down this one, it would be probably a minute or 3 minutes at max to do so. But it helps you a lot, and not only you, because everybody else who goes down here and actually reads it and puts some thought into it will actually be considering this at least. And this is the way it should be, especially in an educational community. Of course, Abdi went he continued. He didn't only write you something, he actually changed it in order to show you what he means, which is even better, obviously, because the images is a very clear statement. But yeah, this is what the group is about, so gladly pay it forward. I see Amir, my friend Amir, he says, hello Theodore, can we discuss the photos that I sent you? Well, we cannot talk about personal messages. I mean, there is the group. We have this chat here, the Keeping It Realistic chat, where you can actually share something if you need feedback from the community. Then go. There's also the Chaos Campus live show chat. Some people post there. I try to concentrate more on the Keeping It Realistic chat here, because otherwise it's too much. But I'm not so much there myself, but the others, people like Abderrahman and Mario and Danushka and many others, Sebastian sometimes also too, that I miss, they actually, Takur is also there, we just talked about his work, are there to actually provide you with some community feedback. And if you want me to talk about your work, then post it in the group, because I get tons of images and personal messages sent to me where people ask me to help them, and again, I don't have the time, but I also cannot just go and search into my personal messages. Just beware if you want to do this now. Today I really is my last day giving feedback in the group until the beginning of last year. So if you post it like in 2 days, I probably won't be reviewing it, because the next 2 shows aren't going to happen. The next 2 Tuesdays aren't going to happen, and the next show will be on Tuesday, January 9th. But I will happily provide you with feedback if you share the images in the group as everybody else here. This is what the show is about, right? Then we had Seper with some issues trying to import a max scene into Rhinoceros as OBJ, FBX, DVG, and this was an issue because the scene was very huge. So for situations like this, you can also gladly try the Keeping It Realistic chat in order to get a quicker response. Generally, yesterday I was here preparing the show, so I could reach out to Seper and try to help him. Then I see Simon also suggested something, instead of going for a VR scene, creating proxies and importing them, which is probably even the better solution. So yeah, but this is also what we do in the group. And we have Matt, who is a great artist, very, very skilled and seasoned, also when it comes to motion graphics, to product design. I'm sure he will be happy, because soon we'll have challenge which will be in this direction, so stay tuned. He says, hey guys, I've updated my portfolio a bit, would be cool if you check it out. Thank you, and wish you all the success in 2024. Gladly check out his studio. He really is very good at what he's doing, and you can even see it here with very, very small images that they have high quality to them. Then we have Amjad again this time with another project, this time with some bedroom. You know the rule, we talk only about one work per artist per show, so I gotta skip this one anyway, but as we are just quickly going through everything, I think it looks nice. Maybe the dark areas are a bit too dark here, but generally it's kind of eclectic, because you have something like this, which is pretty ethnic design, and then you have this lamp and everything. So it's a wild mix, but why not? We gotta experiment in order to move forward, right? I'm not sure about this situation here. It looks like there is a passage here where somebody should be able to walk from this area down here to the front, and I'm not sure if this doesn't look like too narrow and inconvenient to be used, but generally it's a nice one. Maybe this area is a bit too empty, and here it happens a lot, but it's a good one. I don't know if it is a recreation. You say it's your bedroom design. I hope you like it. Always check the implementability and the functionality of your works. This should be more important than how they look like, because something that looks nice but doesn't work is worthless, at least in my opinion. I don't say that this is the case here. I think that there is probably enough space, but from this angle it's just not that visible. Then we have something that, it's absolutely worth viewing. You know, Rita, we talked about a project of hers in the very first show, and now in the very last one for this year, we will also mention a project of hers. It's called Neutral Chic Personal Project, and it's something like a clothes store. You can... Rita is another one of those skilled, seasoned artists. You can often recognize her work with having such lines, like curvy lines on the ceiling. It's very typical for her. And also these beige, these nice earth-toned interiors. It's, and also often public spaces, cafes, or something like this. And in this case, it's a shop. It's obviously inspired by such lines, which is a very cool inspiration. So let's just together enjoy what Rita has shared with us. There are some really nice framings, like this one I enjoyed a lot. She didn't concentrate on the obvious, like the mannequin in the foreground. Instead, she concentrated on the one in the background, and I really enjoy this. Then she has a lot of casual photos within this interior, and then there come some close-ups, which I personally adore. I really like the contrast. Just look how this thing pops out. It's really great, a pleasure to look at. And there are some other shots of this clothes hanging, and it's just awesome. And the design is like very interesting, very special, something you don't see every day. So this was a pleasure to go through, for sure. I saw that Ili also shared a project. It's like 1 hour ago. Obviously, I prepared a show on Monday evening, so stuff which comes on Tuesday I would skip anyway. But as we still haven't reached the 2 hours, and this seems to be the last project, we can show some appreciation to Ili's work. I think this is his second project that we talk about since the show started. It's a modern bachelor's pet design we recently worked on, located in Tirana, Albania. So let's take a look. This is probably, we have a fisheye camera here, and this absolutely is a good usage of this type of camera. Sure, it has a bit of CCTV, but at the same time, it very nicely shows the whole situation here. Not sure if this background on the outside is really fitting, but other than that, we can really see the whole space flow from the entrance area, probably some bathroom, the kitchen, the living room. It's like a very small bachelor's apartment, and the balcony. So very nice use of a fisheye lens here. Here another one, so that we see this other side, which is the entertainment multimedia corner. It's actually a pretty nice apartment if you think about it. If you don't need that much space, probably this is the entrance to some bedroom or something. But for a bachelor's apartment, it's pretty cool. If you have guests here over and something, you can still hang out with them while you're cooking something, making cocktails, stuff like this. And then we have some classic shots, obviously. By the way, folks, this is me improvising. I always prepare because I want to sound competent, but the improvisation sound good. Maybe it's because of the projects just being good enough so that I don't have to criticize so much. But yeah, another really nice, again, more classic shot with a cool view, actually. Then this is probably the bedroom that we assume that this apartment is having. So here it is, some very pleasant low sun. I don't know if it's sunset or sunrise. It could actually be both, but very nice, warm, soft lighting. But and yeah, this is what you see from the bedroom. I think what you have on the outside is just something out of Google Earth, which is, I mean, if you don't have anything else, this is the best option that you have. Probably with the help of AI, of Stable Diffusion, you can actually make it a bit more realistic or fix it here and there where it doesn't look that great. If you use like a 3D model rather than like an actual photo. And this is another view of the living room area. And this is a pretty sweet shot of the bedroom. I really like the sense of scale on this one. Oh, then there is a bathroom. This is the one probably situated behind the kitchen. Nice style. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a bit seldom to see an apartment so small with such high ceilings, but why not? Depends on the building, how expensive it is. But it's cool. Again, lots of use of fish islands, but again, it makes sense because it shows so much. And then we're back at the very first shot. And with this, actually, I think that we can wrap up the very last show for this year. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with you, not only today, but also during the last 4 months. And I'm totally looking forward to the next year. I hope you enjoy these live shows as much as I do, but most of all, I hope that they are useful to you, that you learn something when you watch them, that they motivate you, inspire you. We now also have the challenges, so I hope that also this adds another layer of motivation to you if you needed it. And if you have any feedback regarding the show, or maybe some ideas or thoughts on its future, always feel welcome to share those with me. I cannot promise you that they will be implemented, but they will surely be considered. Again, we're constantly trying to improve this show. You see, we had this graffiti cover image, and now we have this one that actually features your works. We introduced challenges at some point so that there is more motivation for you, and of course some rewards. So yeah, obviously there are ideas. We try to constantly improve and add more stuff and make the whole experience in this group and this community as a whole better to you, so that it is just one nurtured, nice community that the members are gladly a part of. This is what we are trying to achieve, Kels and I. And I see that some of you already got inspired by this and actually started becoming very active themselves, which is awesome. And I want to thank all of you for this. And with this being said, stay safe, have a good rest of the year. If you celebrate Christmas and so on, enjoy the holidays, spend some time with your loved ones, relax a bit, gather some energy, and I hope to see you back on January 9th, which again is Tuesday at the same time. And with this being said, rock on, my friends. It was a pleasure. Bye.